Hello and welcome. In the midst of all the gloom and doom that surrounds us on India and the Indian economy and what's happening around us, there is at least one good news story. The story of the turnaround in Bihar. A new book just published documents the amazing change that's come about in this state. That was once one of the poorest performers, even amongst the BIMARU states. I hate that term, BIMARU, but Bihar was one of them, and it was one of the worst amongst them. It's an important book because it analyzes an important phenomenon, and there are many lessons to be learned from it for other states and perhaps even for India as a whole. The book is called New Bihar, edited by N.K. Singh and Nick Stern. N.K. and Nick, thank you very much for coming here. Both of them know and understand the subject better than most of us. I think, Omurto, you will agree with that? They are ideal editors on a book like this.
Ideal, absolutely.
It's a wonderful collection of papers by a real galaxy of well-known names, from Omurto Sen to Kaushik Basu, Montek Singh Ahluwalia, M.S. Swaminathan Iyer, George Yeo, the Singapore Minister for Foreign Affairs, and used to be INB Minister once as well. Many posts, actually. So we have a tough time keeping up with your many achievements. It's a great book for anyone who wants to truly understand the turnaround in Bihar. You can pick and choose from a whole lot of excellent articles, and they're fairly short articles on various aspects of Bihar. So while the book documents the parameters that show what makes the new Bihar, it does, however, raise one question in my mind. Is this new Bihar, with a growth rate that's gone from 1% to 10%, with social indicators that have really dramatically changed, is this new Bihar truly sustainable, or can it revert to norm? Or is this the new norm? NK, is it sustainable?
Well, certainly I think that the norms have changed, and if you might use the word new norms, I think the new norms are now very high rates of economic growth, continuing deep dent in poverty, significant improvement in physical and social infrastructure, and of course meeting a rising curve of expectations. The most important turnaround which has taken place, apart from the economic parameters, which some of which you have mentioned and which is outlined in the book also, are important. But I think what is very important is a reversal in expectations. Pessimism, which was the dominant phenomena, which led people to not only migrate out, to give up all hope, has been turned now into significant optimism. And that rising curve of expectations is something I think is to sustain and to meet that rising curve of expectations is an important challenge. But I do believe that sustainable change is possible, provided some of the challenges which some of the essays in this book outline are addressed.
Yeah, because you do raise many questions as well in the book.
Yes, there are many questions. They need
but
to be
I just
addressed.
want to ask you, Bihar used to be known, apart from its pessimism about itself, much of it unwarranted, but anyway, that you say has changed around, was known for being lawlessness in Bihar. Now that's a dramatic change. If you look at these figures, which are available in the book, dacoity used to be just a few years ago, 8 years ago, 3 times India, the average in India. It's now about 1.7 times. So that's dropped by almost half, dacoity. Robbery used to be double the average in India. It's now less than the average for India. So that's a huge drop, again a drop by more than half. Kidnapping, Bihar, known for its kidnapping, used to be almost double the Indian norm, then dropped to below average for India. That's again a huge change, but in the last year it's gone up again a bit to 1.25. So that change, how important is removing this fear and lawlessness in Bihar? How important is that?
I think that was a fundamental change.
Yes.
Because I do believe that unless security of life and property is something which can be taken for granted, you cannot reverse expectations. So not only I think that the quality of police administration changed, innovative methods by an auxiliary police force from retired personnel from the defense services was created, and more importantly, conviction rates were dramatically higher. The people who had broke the law, irrespective of their political affiliations, found themselves convicted far faster than it had ever been done before. I think many innovative methods were adopted for this, in terms of, let us say, breaking up the charge sheet into different segments, taking up, for instance, offences under the Arms Act, where it's easy to secure conviction.
Under the Arms Act,
Under
that
the
was
Arms
a clever
Act.
move. Yes.
Clever move,
yes.
because it's easy to
get quicker
convictions,
yes,
conviction rates, and therefore that really resulted. The book outlines the dramatic increase in the number of offenders being inside the jail. Now, that had a huge psychological impact. That, coupled with better policing, better administration by the police force, a non-partisan approach on the police performing its functions assigned under the law, that was fundamental in altering.
It changed the whole atmosphere of Bihar, actually.
I mean, people, for instance, jocularly say that as far as women to go out, it was almost an impossible phenomena after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evening. You ask anyone, women are traveling at late night, people are
I've traveled extensively in the inner parts of Bihar for elections coverage.
Yes. And did you get the same impression?
Total change.
So that,
including the infrastructure, roads, etc.
That I think is an important.
But next turn, again, the growth figures, whether I mean, that's not the be all and end all, and we'll come to the social indicators as well. But if you look at the growth figures, for 15 years, from 1991 to 2005, Bihar averaged a growth rate of 0.9%. That's, I mean, talk about the Hindu rate of growth, that's way below even that. Sub-Hindu rate of growth. And now, since 2005, it's 10.4%. Is that sustainable, or is that just a low base and it's going to be more and more difficult to keep a double-digit growth rate?
I think you have to ask where that growth came from in
Yes.
order to respond
Yes.
to that question. And it comes from the confidence that we were just talking about. The confidence that if you make an investment of some kind, whether it be just in buying a rickshaw and plying your trade, starting up a stall to sell food, investing in your house, investing in your children. I mean, if girls can't go out, it makes it much more difficult to send a girl to school.
Right.
So I think we have to think about the investments, mostly small investments, that people make in their lives.
Mostly small investments.
That people make in their lives.
Yes, yes.
Often it's in their homes and in their houses,
Right.
and construction has been a big part of this. But confidence means that you think that you will get the returns from your investment, or at least more than you did in the past. So it's that entrepreneurship, those small changes, and often sometimes big changes, but mostly small changes people make in their lives that enable them to raise their incomes.
And people from Bihar actually are intrinsically entrepreneurial, because whenever they go anywhere else, they do so well.
Hardworking.
Including in journalism, actually. Fantastic journalists come, very hardworking. Yeah.
So the answer to your question, is it sustainable? I think is yes, provided that improvement in governance is sustained.
Right.
And that, I think, leads us to ask the question, how can that improvement in governance be sustained? In order to answer your question, there it seems to me, partly it's what people demand. If they can see better law and order, if they can see better performance in their schools, if they can speak up a bit more freely, obviously at a time when you do have violence, people worry about speaking up. So partly I think it's going to be pressure from the people who've experienced this improvement in governance, but also I think it will require some support from the centre.
But do you think the people, having seen this, will ensure that this is irreversible, that they'll demand that this standard be continued and they'll not accept any change, or it's difficult to... Or is it dependent on one man like Nitish Kumar? Or
generating the option to improve your life, generating these better law and order positions, it does generate pressure to sustain it.
Yes.
Is that absolutely guaranteed? I don't think it is. But it's a force that will lead to sustained growth. But I do think it does need some support from the centre also, because a lot of what is necessary, investment in schools, investment in infrastructure, a big part of that will demand real resources. Bihar will start to generate those resources itself as it grows, but it's still very poor.
Right.
And it seems to me that part of the sustaining will come from the pressure from the people, and that's probably the strongest force of all.
Yes.
But I do think
Pressure from the people.
I do think the extra investment from the
Funds
centre
from the centre.
will be important in infrastructure, education, and health.
And at least it's being used properly now.
Absolutely.